Eddie, we're here in Las Vegas, but before we get into our fight week, there's a few bits to catch up on over the weekend. We saw Fabio Wardley and Frazer Clarke have their British showdown. What did you make of that fight?
Yeah, great fight. I mean, I was actually trying to catch up on it. Caught it from about, I think, the 7th or 8th round, so I missed the knockdown and I missed the point deduction. But what I saw was a tremendous fight. I mean, back and forward. I guess some people thought Frazer won, some people thought Fabio won. Really good British title fight, you know, just shows you that how good those domestic Lonsdale belt clashes are. We saw it with that fight, we saw it the other week with on Frank Warren's show. We saw it with Reece Bellotti as well against Liam Dillon. So yeah, fantastic, great for the sport. We want those fights. You don't want those fights as a fighter. You're going to take a lot of miles off the clock. Both showed tremendous bravery and heart, but you know the damage done in those kind of fights is going to take a lot of miles off the clock of your career. And Fabio, you know, that nose has caused him some problems, and you know he's going to need to get that sorted because he can't go through fights like that with that kind of damage. And well done to Frazer, who's a lovely guy. And you know, I was straight on the phone to Johnny Fisher. I said, that's the level that I really feel like you're at. You know, Adelaide and then those guys. And I want to see Johnny Fisher pushing fights like that because he can provide the same kind of heart and the same kind of energy. And, you know, that domestic level at British Championship can be really exciting. And well done to both. It was a tremendous fight.
I know we've seen Dalton show that he's well beyond that level now, but I guess just a shame that we're not going to get that fight of Adam Azim next because we can see the value of how good those British fights are.
Yeah, I mean, you can sugarcoat what you want. Adam Azim has ducked Dalton Smith. I mean, we had the official notice today from the EBU that he's relinquishing his belt. And you can try and dress it up with fights that haven't been made yet and other fights that can be made. And, you know, 1 minute Adam's only 21 and Dalton's 27, but Harlem Eubank's 30 and like the whole thing's a load of bollocks, really. The fact is, you're not good enough to fight Dalton Smith. You know you can't beat Dalton Smith. It's absolutely fine. We could have avoided all this and he was never going to take the fight with Dalton Smith. But you've got 5 or 6 weeks of messing around for nothing, really. And it's frustrating because, like you said, you can give the fans, like, with all due respect, no one's calling for Adam Azim against Harlem Eubank. Everyone's calling for Adam Azim against Dalton Smith. And we could give British boxing tremendous fight there. And it's frustrating because there's been a lot of fights that haven't materialised, and you know, sometimes you have to sit back at certain interviews and laugh, but it is what it is. You know, sometimes you have to try and protect your fighter. And you know, Shane McGuigan said it's about the platform. Ben Shalom said it's about the fight, the training team. So I don't know which one it is. Apparently they said, you know, it can happen on Sky, but only if I promote it. I'm getting confused. Basically, it's over. You duck Dalton Smith. Done. I mean, we all move on.
Is it a shame, though, that this, I guess, isn't the first fight that's fallen by the wayside? There's obviously been other fights in the past that have been ordered that also haven't come to fruition, but we've, I guess, been willing to put our people in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can talk about, you know, we're a victim of the game and they don't want to work with us. I mean, it's absolute rubbish. Like, you've only got to look at the facts. You know, when we were working with Fabio Wardley and the Frazer Clarke fight was ordered, they pulled out of negotiations and the purse bid. They've just done it again with Azim and Dalton Smith. When Richard Riakporhe got ordered to fight Jai Opetaia for the world title, they pulled out of the fight and they pulled out of negotiations. When Caroline Dubois got ordered to fight against Beatrice Ferreira for the world title, they pulled out of the fight and they pulled out of negotiations. And now Chev Clarke is mandatory to Isaac Chamberlain. They won't even mention his name. In fact, when he went in to get in an interview, they cut the feed. Like, it's hilarious. So you're seeing the benefit to boxing of Matchroom and Queensberry working together. I mean, it's actually projected both of us to another level. And you can say, you know, people are working against us and people are like, again, the proof is in the pudding. You've got 5 brilliant fights there and every one they haven't been willing to negotiate or to be in. And we've said we'll do it on Sky, we'll go to purse bids, we'll do it on DAZN, but it's just a non-starter. And to be fair, we would have won every one of them. So that's also a reason that I understand you can't get your fighters beat, but roll the dice a little bit, give the fans what they want. We're willing to do it. So yeah, look, in the future, who knows? We're just focused on our fighters. Obviously, this new relationship with Queensberry, which is, you know, this massive nights in the planning, starting with June the 1st. So yeah, disappointing, and you know, the whole, obviously the face-to-face in the ring with a fight that's not even signed, and you know, you put yourself in weak positions really, because if I'm Harlem Eubank now, I'm taking you to the bank, you know. So anyway, good luck to them, and now we'll look on for a big World Championship level fight for Dalton Smith.
Right, now that's out of the way, we can obviously focus on this week. Just great to be here. Fontainebleau, the first ever boxing event that will be staged here, will be headlined by Richardson Hitchins. Another proud moment for you and also the company? Yeah,
I think this place, Fontainebleau, one of the best resorts I've ever stayed at. I mean, you know, people say you would say that. I'm telling you now, I've stayed in every resort in Las Vegas. This is head and shoulders above all of them. So to host the first boxing event here and host the first sporting event here, very honoured to be given that role, and a really good card on Saturday. As you said, Richardson Hitchins, who's got a lot to say for himself, and rightly so. I think this kid is right up there. I mean, you look at our 140-pound roster, it's on fire. You've got Devins fighting Ryan Garcia in a couple of weeks. You've got Subriel Matias. You've got Jack Cattrall fighting Josh Taylor. You've got Regis Prograis. You've got Liam Paro, who's facing Matias. You've got Dalton Smith now coming through. So many others as well. And Richardson Hitchins is right there. This fight is a final eliminator for the IBF title. It gives him the shot against Matias. He's ranked highly with the WBC. He's in a brilliant spot. He wants to fight Haney. He wants to fight Tank. You know, he wants to fight Matias. He wants to fight Prograis. Everyone. And this kid, he's for real. He's the real deal. And great fight this weekend against Lemos, who's what, 28-0, 29-0. Both undefeated fighters. A really good style matchup. This is the night for Richardson Hitchins to really propel himself to the world stage.
As you said, he has a lot to say for himself about some of the other champions and other people in his division. How much pressure does that put on him, and also with the way we saw how Dalton dealt with
Do you know what? I love it. Call them all out. You know, call them what you want. Post about them all day. Because it's just creating noise, it's creating narrative. And people like Richardson Hitchins, because he's so good, you've got to have something else. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's slick, he's explosive, he's exciting. But these guys ain't going to want to face you because you're really good. So make some noise, get people's attention, get people tuned in. And he's doing that, you know, and, you know, he believes in himself. He really does. Like, he believes he can beat everybody at 140 pounds. And I think that, you know, it's going to be an interesting situation to see if he's ready. He's got to come through Saturday first. It's not an easy fight.
And in terms of backing up the words, how important is that he makes a statement in the ring to really smash through that door?
Yeah, because you can talk all you want if you don't perform. But this is a guy that I think is prepared to talk himself up and put that pressure on him to see him perform. And Lemos will bring it. Like, he's a real fighter, and it's a really good fight.
Diego Pacheco is probably 1 or 2 steps behind Richardson in terms of his aspirations to fight for a world title, but another big step up for him, unbeaten opponent. Where would you like to see him go if he can get through this on Saturday?
Diego's right there. I mean, this is I feel like the reason that we've put Diego on the co-main event, i.e., you know, the one before the main event, I don't want to just put pressure on him to headline all the time. He's still a young man, but these kind of fights against another undefeated opponent will just allow him to develop as a fighter. The roll in the dice moment is nearly upon us for Diego Pacheco. Like, he is going to be in a massive fight this year. He nearly made the 5v5. Super middleweight was announced, then that was him locked in. But instead, he fights here in Las Vegas. A good fight, a competitive fight. Then I feel like it's time to headline back in LA against a big name. He has the same kind of problem. This card features a lot of our really good young talent that is either stepping up or is on the verge of stepping up to the acid test. And Diego is someone, you've got to get through Saturday, but that acid test is coming. And, you know, whether it's against Mbili, whether it's against Belanga, whether it's against, I don't know, Plant, like all of these guys, I'm ready for it to put him in with. So get through Saturday in style. Show me that you're ready now to roll the dice, and we'll do it.
I guess as well, because Diego is so young, there's no rush, but at the same time, you don't want to see him stagnate as well.
I was talking to a fighter today who isn't with us, who might be shortly. You mustn't just stay stagnant in a game. Like, there's so many fighters that are inactive and are in nothing fights. The best example, and it wasn't anyone's fault, it was just that he was really good and no one wanted to fight him, was Demetrius Andrade. He wasted a long period of his career. Listen, he made a lot of money. But when he was in his prime, the big fights eluded him. So you're quite right. Yes, Diego Pacheco, still young, still got time. Don't waste your prime years being inactive and not rolling the dice, because it might come too late. He's got plenty of time. But that's why this fight is important. I don't just want headline fights under pressure, under pressure, under pressure. You do that when you're in your absolute prime, when you're Joshua, Canelo, and every time you fight, it's a massive fight, massive risk, massive fight, event. So with Diego, that's why this show is important, and then we start to roll the dice next time out in Los Angeles.
Just on Canelo, I guess this division could shape up quite nicely for Diego when he does reach that moment, because Canelo can't keep the belts forever. David Benavidez might be moving up to 175 as well, his stablemate obviously. So it could shape up quite nicely for Diego.
Everything about representing a fighter is about positioning him, strategizing, you know, and that's where we're really strong. And we know exactly how to position a fighter, we know how to match him in the right way, and we know how to take him to the top of the sport. You've got to be good enough, and Diego is. And I like watching this kid fight, because every time I see him, he makes improvements. And he still needs to make improvements if he's going to mix with the names that you just talked about. But quite correct, with Canelo Alvarez having the belts, they're not going to last forever. They're going to free up, they're going to fly into the air, and we'll be ready to catch him with Diego Pacheco.
9 straight knockouts as well, so let's see if he can make it 10 this weekend.
Huge puncher, you know, and he's shown toughness now. Sometimes I still see Diego as the 17-year-old kid that we signed. I forget now, he's a man, he's a father. You know, he's ready to provide for his family. Makes him a different beast. And I think I've got a great feeling about this young man. I really believe he's going to go all the way.
1 and 2 for the WBC World Featherweight title with Sky Nicholson challenging Sarah Mahfoud. It's not Amanda Serrano, but still the toughest test of her career to date.
It's the toughest fight out there, beyond Serrano, in the division. You know, I have to give my props to Sky. She chased Amanda Serrano. She said that Serrano wouldn't fight her. I wasn't so sure, but Amanda's looking for the big fights, and she knows how talented and how good technically Sky is. So she vacated the WBC belt. It's a perfect scenario of 1v2. There's a lot of vacant belts that come out in women's boxing. This is one you earn against the best in the division outside of Serrano. So this is I see it as a 50-50 fight. You know, we said that about the Wild Hard fight, and as she stepped up, she really showed the levels. And you know, I think she's ready for the big test. She hasn't really lost many rounds, if any, other than maybe the Alvarez fight, in her whole career. So she's screaming out to have a real fight. And this is a real fight. And if you become WBC champion, you've really earned it. And it puts her on another trajectory to chase down more belts at 126, or start to say to Serrano, look, I'm a world champion now. So our fight would be undisputed again. So it's a big moment off the back of 3 Australian defeats last weekend. I mean, Australian boxing is flying, but Liam Wilson, who I thought was exceptional, got beat. You know, Zarafa got banged out early, and Tim Tszyu was fantastic but got beat. So all of a sudden, man, bad luck comes in threes. But she's got a chance to really claw back some glory for Australian boxing this weekend, and it's a big fight for her.
I guess as well, also she'll only be thinking about getting the W, but at the same time, she can make a statement, because Sarah did take, I think it was 3 rounds off Serrano in her only defeat as well. She's
very good. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is, Sarah Mahfoud is a level well beyond Sky's boxed before, but she's been well beyond the level she's boxed. So it's a great matchup. And you know, like you say, Mahfoud, was it 97, 93? She won 3 rounds against Serrano. She's a very good fighter. And I think it's the 2 best in the division, maybe outside of Serrano, maybe not. But we'll see on Saturday night, and a big moment for her. Right,
with Galal Yafai now, we saw the flyweight scene sort of explode towards the back end of last year. He's someone that, he even admitted himself, he is impatient, but he's surely right there now in terms of the next step for him as well, title level.
Listen, Galal is exceptional, and I'm going to call it out now because of all these great British fights we've been seeing. I want Sonny Edwards against Galal Yafai. That fight, for me, is one of the best that can be made in Britain. It's a fight that deserves to be for the world title, but I'm not going to hang around and wait for a world title. I think Sonny's going to come back, win a world title. I want to make Sonny against Galal Yafai this year. You know, Galal's going to box this Saturday, April the 6th. He's going to box in the summer. He's going to box towards the end of the year. at some point he has to roll the dice, either for the World Championship or against Sonny Edwards or in a, you know, against a major name, because he's good enough, he's ready. He's another guy that we talked about earlier. Don't stay stagnant too long. You know, some people are slow to roll the dice, some people are fast to roll the dice. Let's get the timing right. It's a good step up for him on Saturday, but I think you'll see him again too good for this opposition. And if you're too good for the opposition, you need to keep taking that leap. And Galal Yafai is Olympic gold medalist, he's a world champion in a weight-in, and I need to see him fight for the world title this year. 2024 is the year for him to become world champion. And maybe he has to do that, attempt to do it against Sonny. Maybe he does it against someone else. You've just seen Batum vacate his belts at flyweight as well. Let's make it happen.
It'll be quite a statement as well for him to come through this fight, because his opponent, Augustin Gauto, he's got 15 knockouts, which is quite unusual for someone at this weight class. And we know Galal likes to come forward with the pressure. If he can sort of come through this and look good, then that sets him up perfectly, doesn't he, for what you're saying?
Sometimes fighters have a high knockout percentage who have been matched well, right? Also, when you're down at that weight, it's difficult to find liquidity in opponents. So you don't know sometimes the quality of their matchups. What you know is the kid's undefeated, the kid's a puncher. They're all dangerous down in this, and they're all got granite chins. Like you see the last guy who Galal fought, I mean, he battered him for 10 rounds. And Galal is extremely aggressive. Sometimes you have to be a little bit careful. Sometimes he gets a little bit bored in there because he knows he's above the level of opposition, takes some silly shots. You can't afford to do that against this kid. So I'm sure he'll be switched on. But after this, we need a big one.
An amazing turnout for Mark Castro at his media workout in Fresno before coming over here. He can also make a good statement against Abraham Montoya, who has a victory over Luis Alberto Lopez as well.
Yeah, I mean, what a win that is. You know, that looks like an incredible win. And you know, Mark, for me, is another guy that's ready. Let's not let him stagnate for too long by taking fights that he's levels above. This is a really good step up for him. His first championship fight. We're very proud of Mark Castro. You know, he comes from that same kind of mould as Diego Pacheco, Ray Ford, Amo Williams. You know, these guys are really firing now. And Mark is another one, very exciting, hugely popular in Fresno. You know, if I can get into that world championship level, he's going to fill the arena there in Fresno. And a good fight for him. And he's all action. You know, you've got a really, really good run of fights there on the broadcast, and it's going to be a great night of boxing.
But right, before I let you go, just want to speak about some of the shows that we announced last week. We'll start in chronological order with Rocky Hernandez, his comeback fight. A good fight as well against Daniel Lugo, who we saw give Mauricio Lara all sorts of problems. Is the ambition with Rocky to get him back to winning ways and then straight back into the world title?
You know what? This is a really, really big banana skin for Rocky Hernandez. You saw Lugo. I thought he beat Lara. I mean, Lara was off that night, but I still thought that Lugo beat him that night. Lugo against Hernandez is a war. Like Rocky Hernandez, we know every fight, but all of a sudden, you know, having been, what, a minute away from becoming world champion, you lose this fight, you're miles off the scene. So there's a lot of pressure on Rocky Hernandez, and it's a great all-Mexican fight. And also look out for Erica Cruz against Romero. They're telling me this Romero, who's with Samson Leskovich and his team, is a fantastic fighter. And Erica Cruz is always in absolute bloodbath wars. So two really good fights in Mexico on a big night, and a tough night's work for Rocky Hernandez.
Then we go to Puerto Rico, taking Subriel Matias back home as world champion for the first time. How important is it for you when you have these opportunities, not to just take them back home in an easy fight, but we're taking him back against 24-0 Leon Parra?
You know, this is the thing that I don't understand about boxing. It's like when I talk to these fighters, again, another one that I was talking to today, I want to headline you in your hometown. Oh, that would be a dream. It's like, am I missing something here? What, are people just thick? Like, how can you not headline fighters in their hometown? And that's something that happens in America, obviously Mexican fighters, Puerto Rican fighters. When you go to Puerto Rico, and you will see on June 15, when we bring Subriel Matias home, the energy, the atmosphere, you know, the visual impact of a packed arena and a guy walking out with a history and the heritage of Puerto Rican boxing. And by the way, don't write off Leon Parra. Like, this kid can really fight, really fight. And there's not many people that wanted to face Subriel Matias. There's other fighters that have now been given opportunities to fight major names at 140. And I turned them down because they weren't good enough to fight Subriel Matias. And I don't want to give you a mismatch. I wanted a fighter that believes he can win. I want a fighter that could win. And we had to pay up for that. And the guy is Leigh Wood. I'm not even going to say the names, but you'll see other guys fighting big names at 140 pounds. We turned them all down. Because this guy, Subriel Matias, excuse my language, can you just beat this out? He's a f***ing animal. And Leigh Wood is up for the challenge. And he ain't out of this fight. Trust me, this is a brilliant fight. And you will see an incredible night of boxing June 15th in Puerto Rico. And it's our first ever show there. I can't wait. It's what I live for. Like, going out there, experiencing, you know, the people, the culture, the passion for boxing. You know, the heritage is unbelievable. I mean, we're very lucky to do what we do in Mexico. And I can't wait.
And finally, June 29, arguably my favourite card, Estrada versus Bam. That's just got war written all over, isn't it?
Sometimes you announce a fight. We see it. Like, we're not, you know, I'm not a analytical digital expert, but I know reposts, likes, and that fight was everywhere. You know, Juan Estrada against Jesse Bam Rodriguez. That is a fight of the year contender written all over it. Two guys genuinely on the pound for pound list, you know, and it is just a tremendous fight. June 29, it's the day before Mexico v Ecuador, also in Phoenix. The tickets are going to fly, they'll be out in a couple of weeks. The card that we have planned, I want a special night, June 29th. You know, there's going to be a huge, huge Mexican fan base in Phoenix for the football. You know, they'll be there anyway. We always do a great card. This is, for me, going to be one of the nights of the year, June 29th. And Estrada against Bam is a definite, as I said, fight of the year contender. If
Bam can pull that victory off, to think that he's beaten Rungvisai, Quadras, Estrada, Sonny Edwards at the age of 24, but where does that put him in terms
of... And don't forget the vacant belt that he won at WBO against Rodriguez. That wasn't an easy fight. I mean, if he beats Estrada, for me, he's top 5 pound for pound. You know, like you say, Quadras, Rungvisai, Sonny Edwards, Estrada. You know, it's only because Chocolatito is with Mr. Honda that, you know, and because of the relationship that we haven't made that fight. But I don't know, you know, this man, he's definitely going to go to Bantam. And then, you know, he's looking to become a 3-division world champion. But he just wants the big fights. And, you know, like I said, you could pad this kid's record for 2 or 3 years, or you could just let him go. You let him go and you show the world how great he is. And that's the art and the skill of matchmaking and taking a fighter forward. And when you're good enough, don't just sit there and wait. Spread your wings and go for it. And that is what Jesse Bam Rodriguez continues to do.
First of all, though, we have this weekend in Las Vegas live on DAZN from the Fontainebleau Hotel. Eddie Hearn, thank you very much for your time.
Cheers.